Joining me now with reaction to all the latest primary results, former advisor to President George W. Bush, Fox News contributor, we call him the architect, the one and only Karl Rove. Karl, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Sean.
All right, your reaction, first we had Alaska, Murkowski loses, you had Rand Paul beat the establishment candidate, Sharon Angle, now it's Delaware. Your reaction?
Yeah. Well, look, all the rest of them are explainable, in Murkowski versus in the Alaska race, you had a long-time feud between two factions of the party. In Kentucky, you had a good candidate versus a candidate who had no message. In Nevada, you had a candidate who sort of self-immolated herself, and another candidate who had a consistent message. This is the inexplicable one, because Christine O'Donnell has come on here at the very end of the campaign, and there's a huge turnout tonight in Delaware. The total was estimated to be 30,000 people going into the primary, and it's come out 56,000, and she has dealt a defeat to one of the state's longest and best known and thought to be most beloved political figures, a former governor and 9-term Republican congressman in Mike Castle. So this is the one that's unusual, because this is not a campaign that has been going on for a year where you had one candidate who was consistently doing better as a candidate than the other, as in the case of Rand Paul, and there were not deep sort of family and tribal disputes as we had in Alaska between Miller and Murkowski, and we didn't have a candidate who committed suicide, political suicide, by saying things that got him in trouble with the voters. Instead, we have a true upset of somebody with little money, little track record, and I think this really says that this is more about Mike Castle's voting record than about the appeal of Christine O'Donnell.
I'm not sure if I agree with you. I think there's a battle going on with what we define as the establishment, where we're talking about with Dana and Stewart, and those that are taking strong conservative views. I mean, Mike Castle was one of 7 or 8 Republicans in the House that voted for cap and tax, an F rating with the NRA. He's not pro-life, and you have the establishment over the years. Look who they backed: Arlen Specter, Charlie Crist, Murkowski. They didn't support Rand Paul, Sharon Angle. There seems to be a schism here. There seems to be a divide.
Well, look, I'm not certain of this, because, look, there were conservatives on both sides of this race in Delaware. And one thing that Christine O'Donnell is now going to have to answer in the general election that she didn't have to answer in the primary is her own checkered background. You made my case. You made out a list of the things that Mike Castle had done right, or excuse me, done wrong. You didn't make out a list of the things that Christine O'Donnell had done right. I've met her. I've got to tell you, I wasn't frankly impressed as her abilities as a candidate. And again, these serious questions about how does she make her living, why did she mislead voters about her college education, how come it took her nearly 2 decades to pay her college bills so she could get her college degree, how does she make a living, why did she sue a well-known and well-thought-of conservative think tank?
This is probably one of the few times we're going to disagree here, because I've met her, I've interviewed her a lot over the years, I've found her quite impressive. And more importantly, she is a solid conservative. And I think what people are saying in this primary, in this race, and I think all across the country in these other races that we're mentioning here, is that, you know what, if you vote for cap and tax and you have an opponent that says they wouldn't, then they have a choice. They have an option. So I think it was very substantive, very based on issues, very based on the voting record of one and the promised voting record of another.
Again, you're making my case. This was about Mike Castle's bad votes. It does conservatives little good to support candidates who, at the end of the day, while they may be conservative in their public statements, do not evince the characteristics of rectitude and truthfulness and sincerity and character that the voters are looking for.
I think that,
and we'll see how she can answer these questions. She sure as heck didn't answer them thus far in the campaign.
Well, I interviewed
and now
her.
In the general election, she will be asked about it.
I interviewed her, and I felt her explanations were far more plausible than was
Did you ask her about the people who are following her home to her headquarters and how she's checked each night in the bushes? Did you ask her? I mean, there are just a lot of nutty things she's been saying that just simply don't add up to it.
It sounds like you don't support her, but I will tell you, I think
I'm for the Republican, but I got to tell you, we were looking at 8 to 9 seats in the Senate. We're now looking at 7 to 8, in my opinion. This is not a race we're going to be able to win. In my opinion.
You may be right in the end. I don't know, and we can look into our crystal ball and can say things. I would just argue back to you gently that I don't think we can make progress in stopping the Obama agenda with RINO Republicans that are not going to be there when the solid votes are needed.
I agree, but we also can't make progress if we have candidates who've got serious character problems that cause ordinary voters who are not philosophically aligned with us to not vote for our candidates out of concerns about what they said.
I think one of the problems, though, too, is we've sent people to Washington, forgot why we sent them there, and they got fat and lazy and out of control, and they're paying a price.
Absolutely.
And they should pay a price.
And in 2006, we had people who had really violated the people's trust by engaging in acts of corruption, which is why the Democrat culture of corruption theme was so powerful in 2006.
I don't even hear one allegation that begins to compare to Charlie Rangel or William Jefferson or anything like that.
That's not a very good defense. These seem to
be trumped-up charges, from my standpoint, that the Republican establishment was throwing against her, which by the way, violated whatever happened to Reagan's 11th Amendment.
I agree. But look, she attacked him by saying that he'd had a homosexual relationship with a young age with not a bit of evidence to prove it.
I heard the tape,
and she made a lot of these things.
She said in that interview that she was not making that accusation.
Well,
I heard the tape in the very interview.
That was the second interview. She'd already previously spread the rumor. I mean, come on. I mean, look, she's got a chance now. We'll see how well. Let you and I have a private side bet on this one. But I think that at the end of the day, she's going to have to answer these questions in a way that the people of Delaware find convincing, or we're going to find ourselves with somebody who says conservative things but doesn't have the character that the people of Delaware want to have back
We're going to see. Karl Rove will give you the last word. Time now to check in with Greta Van Susteren for a sneak peek of what's coming up on the record. 18 short minutes.
That was great. That was exciting.